Welcome to the Full Nelson. The Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 competitor, as it comes from the factory, was one of my least favorite guns. I owned one when they first were released, and I got rid of it because I disliked it so much. This gun here, which is also a Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 competitor, is one of my favorite guns. And I'm going to show you what I did to it to transform it from one of my least favorite to one of my favorite guns. The first thing I did not like with the Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 competitor is that it had not very good texturing on the frame. These metal frame Smith & Wessons have a really heavily textured back strap and a textured front strap, but all this section in here all the way up into here is bare. That's not really a problem for your dominant hand, but for your support hand, I like to take that support hand and press that against the frame and have my thumb right up here and my hand right here. And I found with that smooth, bare aluminum frame that under recoil, my hand just did not want to ride with the gun very well, my support hand. So I was able to fix that with this grip tape. The other thing I didn't care for with the Smith & Wesson as it came from the factory, or this competitor as it came from the factory, was the factory trigger. The trigger reach was too short for me, and I didn't feel like the trigger brake. It kind of felt like it had a little bit of a rolling brake. I didn't like that very much. But the trigger reach was really the biggest thing. Trigger reach, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, is the distance between the back strap and then where your finger actually indexes on the trigger. And in this case, where the trigger would actually break. I felt like it broke too far rearward for my preference, and that caused some problems for me personally. Now, I probably could have got used to that, but that wasn't the only issue I dealt with. Another problem with them from the factory is they come with really crappy plastic um, optic plates, and you can get aftermarket aluminum ones. But one of the things that was not available initially on release with this are these tag precision optic plates that block this stupid visual chamber checking port that they have milled into the slide, which causes carbon to get blasted up onto your optic lens. That's something that some of the one of their really famous competition shooters talked about when this gun was first released, and told them that it was stupid and that they should fix it, and they didn't listen to him, even though he's probably the best shooter they had on their team at the time. And they still haven't fixed it to this day. They've still got this silly thing here. But fortunately, thanks to aftermarket support, you can completely mitigate that issue with this type of an optic plate that has this little shield on here. So I have done that to mitigate that issue and resolve that. Another issue is they do not come with optic height iron sights. They come with just standard low fiber optic iron sights. Well, that's great if you're not going to run an optic, but for those of us that purchase these to run an optic or want to use them for self-defense use or duty use or something like that, we really need to have some iron sights that will co-witness with the optic. So I added some of those to this firearm to mitigate that issue. So the last thing that I did to this gun to resolve one of, and this isn't necessarily an issue, it's more of a nicety, and it's something that I think was a missed opportunity. People looked at this and they were like, wow, look at these cool slide cuts they've got. And look at the slide cuts they've got on top of this thing. And you would assume that they would port this barrel considering all of the machine work they've done on the slide. Well, they didn't. But I found somebody who did and would. And as you can see, I have V8 porting in that barrel that perfectly fits the factory slide cuts. And this reduces the recoil on this firearm, or the muzzle rise on this firearm, by approximately 50 to 55%. And that is not like human subjective testing. That is somebody that locked it in ransom rest before and after and showed the difference in recoil mitigation. And now that I have it in my hands and have tested it myself, I can verify that that is in fact the case. Superb recoil mitigation. So between the trigger, the recoil reduction, the ability to get a better purchase, the no longer having the issue with the carbon caking up my lens, this is an awesome firearm. I don't know why Smith & Wesson won't pull their heads out, make it this way from the factory, but it is absolutely awesome now. And I wish that they would go through and make some of those small little changes. The including the appropriate size irons is an easy one. The not adding this to the machine process and deleting this silly chamber check thing would be an easy fix. There's several of these that would be really easy for them to do. I don't know why they don't do that. But anyway, so this is how you take your Smith& Wesson competitor that comes with some issues and turn it into a really nice, awesome performing firearm. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave those in the comments section below. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.